And welcome once again, Matt Schwegler, along with Ron Lucier of the Infrared Training Center. Thank you for joining us for today's live tutorial on traveling with an infrared camera. Well, it's a great topic, Ron. You actually came up with this idea.
Sure. I've been traveling for years with an IR camera, and good experiences and some bad ones.
Yeah. A lot of years, a lot of miles.
A lot of miles behind the red door in customs once.
And so I thought this was a fabulous idea to have this topic, because we do get a lot of questions about traveling with a camera. I just had a gentleman email me about flying with a camera.
Right.
And so it's going to be a good topic today.
Sure.
So excellent.
Yep.
Well, Ron, I think I'll turn it over to you. You've got some slides you put together on traveling with an infrared camera, one of the more common questions that we get with thermographers.
This comes up quite a bit, and had a lot of experience with this. We just wanted to put a few slides together to try to answer, one of the several of the common questions. What happens when you show up at the airport? You decide you want to take your camera and just go someplace with it. This is just about 30 slides or so. I'm not going to cover everything. I don't want to try to cover all the international rules. Defer that off to our global trade compliance. I'll give you an email that you can email them. But just some of the very, very simple things here. And if you're watching this webinar, have downloaded it later on, there are two conclusions. You have an infrared camera and you need to travel, perhaps internationally. International travel can be challenging. It can be fun. I've been to about 20 different countries. Only had trouble traveling with a camera 1, 2, 3 or 4 times.
Not bad.
Not too bad, but was expensive once. It can be frustrating. We were just talking about our own travel experiences the past weeks where we ran into weather problems. I checked one of my cameras on, and I thought I was going to miss connections just because of weather, but Delta Airlines did get the camera to me. It was at the airport when I arrived, and that was a good thing. And so tight connection, they actually got it there. So it's one thing to travel with your luggage. It's another thing to travel with something that's $20, $30, $40,000. And so we want to just talk a little bit about what might happen. So here's some I would say the most common questions that happen to me. Is it okay? I decide I'm going to take my camera to the airport. Can I stick it through the X-ray machine, or is that going to hurt it? Absolutely. It goes right through the X-ray machine. I've done it many, many, many times. I've talked to the engineers in Sweden. There's no reason why you can't. Okay, there's not enough X-rays there to damage anything that's inside the camera.
If your phone's fine, your computer's fine.
If your phone's fine, your computer's fine. You're not hurting the sensor. There's nothing that's going on in there whatsoever. Is it okay to check the IR camera on as baggage? I'm going to give this a qualified maybe. Okay, yes, sure, why not? But make sure you know where you're going, how to package it. We're going to talk about that, and what you do when you get to the destination.
Yeah. Okay.
There are some caveats on that. And do I have to declare my camera if I'm traveling internationally? And I'd say that's yes in most cases. If you're traveling with a FLIR 1 or C2 or C3, something 9 hertz, that answer is probably no. Okay, those are the smaller cameras. I believe all the 9 hertz cameras are. There's no restrictions on those. So those would be consumer grade level cameras. And so that should be fine. But anything like an E95, a T650, a science camera, you very definitely have to declare those, and you have to have the right paperwork. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Question about the security check with the cameras. If you're carrying it on, there's people that are nervous about, do they have to not declare the camera per se if they're traveling internationally, but just if they're going through security. It's almost like because it's such a specialized instrument in many people's eyes, that they feel like there's a need to show it off to the TSA. I don't know where that came from, or that perception came from, but I get a lot of questions about people that are wondering if they need to maybe come forward with that information.
No. My recommendation is you're going to put it through the X-ray machine. You don't offer any information unless they ask you.
It's a computer. It's something else.
And probably in the last 25 times that I've put my camera, that would either be a GF320, GFX320, or the T650 camera, that I put that through the X-ray. The last 25 times, 0 out of 25 times has TSA even
never asked you or anything.
Asked me anything. Haven't asked me to open it up.
Okay.
Only once, I'd say, in the past 6 or 8 years, have they actually wanted to check the case. And when they did, I opened it up, and well, I'll show you here in a well, we can talk about this right now. This is an E95 case. When I opened up the camera case, the TSA inspector pulled it out, and this is what he saw on the end of the batteries. I had taped the batteries. Yeah. And he goes, "Oh, good." He says, "You've taped the contacts." He closed the whole thing up, didn't even swipe the inside of it. He was worried about the lithium-ion batteries.
They're more worried about the batteries and the fact that it's a thermal imaging camera.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Because many of them are ex-military. A lot of those folks know what FLIR is, and they see the little sticker that's on the case that says the batteries in it. That's all they wanted to know. So we'll talk about taping things up. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. But if you want to, you could. So why make an issue out of this when we're traveling? The biggest issue are the lithium-ion batteries. There have been 3 specific situations where there were airline crashes because of loose fires. Yeah. And that was from the little AA and AAA size batteries. And they were loose in the cargo, and the containers broke, and they actually shorted. And I know 2 of them were rather tragic. One was destroyed. The other one destroyed the airplane completely. So the United Nations and part of the International Air Transport Association, they came up with regulations for containing and transporting loose lithium batteries. And when you check in and when you're boarding, they'll ask you, if you have any loose batteries in your luggage, take them out. Right now, they don't want the smart luggage. Some folks, somebody created this smart luggage where you could actually charge your cell phone.
In it, yeah.
In your luggage. Well, the airlines don't like that because that lithium-ion batteries
built into the suitcase.
Built right into the suitcase, and several of the airlines have banned them. And so you have to take that portable charger out. And as recently as last week, I saw on one of the forums a portable battery pack in a foreign airliner exploded. And it was a flight attendant's portable battery pack. And so this does happen. And so there is a lot of concerns, a lot of energy in lithium ion.
Quick question just came in from Jim, was asking about, he has an E6. Should he pack it in the hard case or just carry it loose?
No, we always recommend that you pack it in the hard case. Okay. And so carrying it loose, as I'll show you a little bit later on, that hard case is designed for safe transport of that camera. I've seen a lot of folks come to class, they've wrapped it in towels, they've wrapped it in rubber bands. I mean, you're putting the camera at risk.
Okay.
You can do that if you wish. We can't stop you from that, but the camera is designed to be shipped in its case. And if you're worried about the size of that, well, just put it in another box. If you don't want to have the FLIR logo all over that, you can always repackage that into just a generic brown box.
Put it in the box and
ship the box, check it on as luggage.
Yeah,
it's another thing you have to go get, but it's the safe way to do it.
If you ever had to ship it home, you're going to want that case also.
You're going to want that case also, yeah. If you do cross an international border with something of value and have no way of providing ownership, you might meet some very, very unfriendly customs people, and they're going to want money. And so you may be subject to duties, taxes, and fines. And so be very careful when you travel, particularly internationally. All the borders, all the countries want to make sure that they're going to get the taxes for the goods that are traveling back and forth across their borders. And we do too. Every country does. So you have to be prepared. You have to know what the regulations are.
That's a question that I had, because we just had a class here in the Bahamas that we were shipping some equipment down for.
Correct.
And even though if the camera's going into the country not to be sold, but to be used as obviously a demonstration tool, do you still have to pay taxes? Or
you shouldn't have to pay taxes on that. That can be done on several different ways, on a commercial invoice, and then I'll talk a little bit on about using a carnet.
Okay.
Not every country, like the Bahamas, are not a carnet country.
Okay.
So, and a carnet is an equipment passport.
Okay.
So you can ship it in on. I know FedEx has the forms for international shipping to certain countries. They will help you fill those forms out. So there are, and UPS would as well. So you have to have some sort of advanced planning if you're going to travel. Know where you're going and what the rules and regulations are. And sometimes it's hard to find out what those rules and regulations are. It's not clearly identified. So Sometimes if you're U.S. citizen, go to the customs, call up, go to the local customs at your local airport and talk to them or call them up. And when I was traveling by myself as my own consultant, I found them to be very, very helpful. Okay. The lithium ion batteries, they've revolutionized portable electronics. I remember the early days of the Infometrics 525. We powered that with a car battery, a 12-volt car battery. Those are not shippable. So I used to ship the cameras and then go to Sears and or nearest auto parts store and buy a battery every time I went, and then give it to the first guy that at the plant when I was leaving.
Makes
the
sense.
First guy I saw.
Yeah.
So now we get more energy in a smaller package. The IATA has a lithium battery risk mitigation guide. It's an excellent source of information. And this is one of the things I would like to integrate into our training materials because it's a very short document. And I have the URL down there. And if you replay this back, you can find what that is. But I'd like to get this into our training materials, maybe even up on our website. Definitely. And like I said, there have been 3 significant aircraft disasters, and they explain what they are on that website, by the way. And it states that the lithium-ion batteries are classified as dangerous goods. And so we all have them in our cell phones, we all have them in our iPads, we have them in our computers, but they are dangerous goods and they have to be handled. And they say here it's recommended that the PEDs containing batteries be carried in carry-on baggage. And so this is a personal electronic device. They want you to have it as carry-on baggage. However, if this is not possible and they're in checked baggage, measures must be taken to prevent their unintentional activation.
So that's what the tape is for.
That's what I do with the tape. Yeah. So there's no possible way, even if that case was crushed, dropped, handled by less than gentle baggage handlers.
Yeah.
Those battery contacts there are taped. They're not gonna. That thing is not going to short. I mean, you'd have to really destroy that case before you'd have a problem. And so that's been my capability for a while. Okay.
So we're shipping these now. We've got the labels here.
Yeah, we have these labels on our cases, and this doesn't give you carte blanche. This is required by law to tell the carrier, be it Delta Airlines, Southwest, UPS, FedEx, whoever's shipping this or carrying this, to tell them. There are 2 different labels here. The 3481 says that these are contained in a package and they're packed or integrated with the source. Okay. So that means that it's inside the camera.
Okay.
Okay, they're portable. And so it's a regulation, it's a law. If you need those labels, you can buy them. You can buy them from many different label sources, label companies. And just because it has it, it doesn't immunize it from inspection or refusal. Many times I've had my camera cases opened up by FedEx because we're shipping these all the time. And so I will tie wrap the Pelican cases closed, and I put different colors on there. And then when I get to the next location, I notice those tie wraps are gone.
They're looking at them.
And so they've looked inside
to
see that we have taken care of this.
Gotcha.
So the air carriers are checking this stuff to make sure that these are being taken care of. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was doing an optical gas imaging class, and a student took his GF320 because that's a $90,000 camera. He sent it through the X-ray machine, and the TSA had him open it up and take the batteries out and keep them separate from the camera.
Okay, I had that happen with me. We were at a conference in England. It was last year, and we took our mobile production kit for social media. And yeah, I had actually to travel with the batteries separately. Those had to come out. They couldn't go into the cargo hold. So that makes sense.
Yep. So it's every air carrier is different, and I've never had that happen. Okay. And so to be safe, consider taping these battery terminals with brightly colored electrical tape. I use pink, yellow, green, something that's contrasting, anything but black. Why not black? Because the batteries are black.
That's it, yeah.
And you would have the tendency to forget you did this. And then if you stick a taped battery inside the camera, you might damage those contacts.
Oh. Yeah, gum them up at
gum
least.
them up,
Yeah.
or you stick it in there and you turn the camera on and it doesn't turn on. And you say, "Oh, my camera's broke," and you get mad and you call us and
Use colored tape.
use colored tape. Okay, so taping the contacts, it shows that you've taken care to follow them. And the IATA says that placing them in a plastic bag, such as those supplied at an airport, security liquids, or gels, or taping the contact exposed terminals. So in the IATA regulations, it's there. It's not my idea. They've actually said this is something you can do, and that's what they recommend.
This is great advice. This first I've heard of it, so this is
right?
good to know. This is great to know.
Good. And if you have any doubts, ask your air carrier before you travel, just be sure. So when you're checking in, say, "Hey, I have a camera. Is it okay?" Make sure you don't get there 10 minutes before your flight, but just ask them, and they'll be very helpful. Okay. Now, another question is do I check or do I carry on? You're going to check it as baggage. Well, again, we always recommend transporting the camera in its original FLIR camera case. If it's a real small camera, I'd say an EXX case, E6 or whatever. I don't know. That might be small enough that it really might not matter. But I would tend to always, I'd stick that case in my suitcase anyway, and then just check that. Okay. But it's specifically designed to protect the camera, and if you take it out of that case, your luggage loses that protection. It can't provide much protection.
Do we know what the airlines provide for coverage for insurance? Let's say I've always been hesitant about
not much.
Not much at all.
No.
I mean, I always err on the safe side, and I would actually check it. I would bring it on. I should say.
It's only for lost luggage, not for damage.
Not for damage. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think they'd be responsible for $20,000 camera.
No.
So, and if it's a GFX 320, if you have a camera that has a very, very large case, it's not going to fit in most overheads. Matter of fact, I was trying to think if I knew of any airplanes that had an overhead large enough, because that's a large box. That's about 22 inches wide, and that might not fit. And so, but that's a $100,000 camera. Do you really want to trust putting that in the hands of the baggage handlers? And that's a decision everybody has to make. Yeah. One thing I did not address here is, do you ever want to buy insurance? Well, the problem with the insurance is that folks like Federal Express, their limit is $50,000. And that insurance is very expensive for $50,000 insurance. That's only half the cost of the camera. And so you might want to get in-transit insurance from your own insurance company. And I have no clue what that costs, okay? But if you do check your camera, use tie wraps. And I use colored tie wraps. And what I will do is I will stick green tie wraps inside my camera case and yellow ones on the outside. So when I get to my destination airport, the first thing I look for is what kind of tie wraps are on the outside. And if I see green ones, well, then I know they cut the yellow ones off and they looked inside, and I can expect a TSA slip in there. And then I will stop right in the baggage claim area, open the camera up, and make sure everything is there. Make sure somebody didn't take something out. It's never happened. It doesn't mean it's not going to. Okay? And so I always leave some extras inside, and every time I have, they've zip tied it. Okay? So they have been very good about that. If checked as baggage, it's going to be handled just like any other bag. These folks are not necessarily gentle. If you get the window seat right over the baggage hold, you can see how many bags get thrown off the belt. They fall onto the ground. I've had my bag come out and it's been soaking wet because it's tumbled on the ground and been rained on and snowed on. And, these folks are...
Well, it's a great argument for the hard case. I mean, that's
great argument for the hard
for.
case.
Yeah.
The cameras are certified for 25 G's worth of shock. All the cameras. I went through a whole bunch of our spec sheets. I didn't check every single FLIR camera, but every one I did check was 25 G's to some international standard. So they can take quite a shock. And once you get to your location, try to get to the baggage claim before the bags do, because there are some entrepreneurs out there that are looking to steal bags. And I know in certain airports, and it happened to me in 3 of these, and I don't mean to pick on these 3 cities, but in Atlanta, New Orleans, and Memphis, I was actually paged to go pick up my camera.
Oh, okay. That's a nice kind of
Yeah.
service. That's unexpected. That's great.
No, because they they noticed that it was a black case. They intercepted it.
Great.
And they took it off the line before anybody else could. So I had to go get it. It was in a special area.
We get a lot of questions about ITAR. I'm glad you
yeah.
put some information here, because
I don't have a tremendous amount of information about ITAR, because that the real experts in ITAR is our global trade group, and ITAR is the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, and these apply to all defense articles and services listed under the United States Munitions List. EIR, the Export Administration Regulations, and apply to the dual-use technology and are primarily for commercial use, but may have a military application. Virtually all of the cameras that we have here are dual use. Okay.
They serve a commercial purpose, but they can also serve a military purpose.
Well, the military purpose would be surveillance.
Yeah.
Okay, because they are a thermal camera. They're completely passive. You can see in the night, but we can go measure electrical connections with it. And the exceptions for these would be the GF 315, 335, and most of the SC series cameras. A lot of those are still covered under, as I understand it, most of those are still covered under the ITAR regulations. But that list keeps getting updated quite frequently, so I don't have the latest list. Okay. Compliance with those regulations is mandatory. As we get our mandatory training in ITAR through FLIR, we have to know that there are certain embargoed countries, and these change. It's like Libya and Syria and North Korea and Cuba, and there's a few others. You can't travel with a camera there. And State Department is the one that determines which countries are the embargoed countries. And these regulations are primarily set up for exporting, as if you were selling and delivering technology to a foreign country. So
this also includes bringing a camera there just as for
even
demonstration purposes.
Even if you said, hey, I want to go there and I want to watch bats come out of a cave.
Yeah.
You would need an export permit. You'd have to state your purpose, and they would have to track your travel. And I didn't even know whether in certain countries you could even do that. So that permitting process, you'd have to get the guidance from our folks in global trade, our traffic department. So there are waivers for temporary export, but in some cases you definitely need an export permit. Some of those are issued by the Department of Commerce, some are by Department of Defense. And so that's where our level of expertise ends. And we have to go to our licensing group. Okay. And if you have any questions, you've got to work both. If you're into that situation, you've got to work with both your legal department and global trade. And this is the best contact I could give everybody is exportquestions@flir.com. That's the generic one. That's where I send my questions into.
Okay.
Okay. So that's why I want to end it there. Now, you do have another option. If you travel to about 80 different countries, you can get an equipment passport. And this is called a carnet. And you go to the atacarnet.org, and I have traveled with these. And it is a very handy resource for getting across the border without paying import duties and VATs and all sorts of other fees. But it's not... let's see, it's a little time consuming to work with.
There's a process
so
to it. Okay.
There's a whole process. You have to have a passport to cross an international border. Well, this is the passport for your camera, for whatever type of electronic equipment you have. And so this eases exit and entry from about 80 different countries. And it's primarily used for the temporary import and export of high value goods. So you wouldn't use this for something like the lower value cameras, the C3s, the TG165s. This is for the higher value cameras. And there are several organizations that are available to help you to prepare the paperwork, and generally you get them issued for either 4 or 8 trips. And there's a fee for all of these. Okay, so why use a carnet? Well, you show up in a country with a $20,000 camera. The customs people are going to want their money. Because what's to say that you're not going to sell that camera there, keep the money, and not they won't be able to collect their taxes. And so if you don't declare it, they're going to be looking for their value-added tax. In some countries, it's as low as 5%. In others, it could be 30%. And so plus there's duties and fees and fines, etc. And it can be quite a hassle. And so
you mentioned customs broker. Is that a good recommendation to work with somebody?
No, you could work with a customs broker, but this means you don't have to work with a customs broker. You get this carnet, and it's a passport for the equipment.
Gotcha.
Period.
Okay.
So customs brokers would work, for like a one-time deal in and out of a country.
But if you're doing this frequently enough, you're going to want to go.
You're going to want to go back and forth. This is for you to go back and forth.
Okay.
And so the cost for a $20,000 camera is $260 plus a security deposit, generally in the terms of a bond, for 40% of the value. So it's not cheap to do, but you get that security deposit back when you turn the carnet in.
It's incentive, as it says, not to
it's
sell
an
the
incentive
camera.
to not sell the camera. Okay. And there's one downside to this is paying a lot of money. But the upside is you don't have to go through the red door in the customs at Gatwick Airport like I did.
Oh.
And so, well, that was years ago. I'll mention that in a minute. So how do we use this? Let's say you have a carnet for your Fleer T540 and wish to fly from Miami to Toronto. And you have the work permit to get into Toronto, into Canada. Make sure you have everything down to the last cable, down to the last connector. Make sure you have a list of everything, and you apply for a carnet with that list. They will give you an equipment passport. You pay all your fees, etc. So once you have that, you go to the U.S. Customs and Immigration window at the airport on the day you're going to leave, and you tell them, "I want to initiate a carnet," and they know exactly what you're talking about. They will inspect that carnet. They generally will inspect all of your stuff to make sure you got a T540 and not something else. And then they will do their paperwork, sign and stamp it. And then you will go check in, and now what you have done, you give more than likely you put it on as baggage. And now you have exported your camera. That's step one. When you arrive in whatever your country happens to be, say Canada here, they will ask you if you have anything to declare. And one thing I will tell everybody is that there's a little card that they hand out when you go into every country. They take that seriously. They really do. So if you've got to list absolutely everything, and every time I've traveled with a camera, do you have anything to declare? Yeah, I have an IR camera. I put that right on that little form. And you go right up to them, and you hand it there, and you say, I have a camera to declare. And so you take their carnet, they will inspect that carnet and the camera, and they will sign off on it. And they will make sure that you have every cable, you have every connector, you have every camera, the serial number matches, etc. I've had them check it. Now, if that everything checks out, you have imported that item into Canada or whatever country. Now you don't have to pay that value-added tax. Okay? Could be 18% of the value. That's $3,600. When you are ready to leave the country, you go through customs again. You hit that customs window before you check in. I have something to declare. What is it? My carnet.
So it's the same process on the way home.
You reverse that process. You re-export it out of that country, and then when you get back to the United States, you re-import it. So you cannot miss a single step. There has to be, all these pieces of paper has to be stamped, time dated, otherwise you're not going to get your bond back, your security deposit back.
Gotcha.
Okay, and this is very, 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 very specific on how you do this. Okay, and there are 4 pages: the export, import, re-export, and re-import. You have to complete every one of those. When the carnet expires, or when you're done with it, let's say all of a sudden I don't need to travel to another country anymore, you can surrender that. You'll get your security deposit back.
Okay.
Okay. And it just, this smooths everything so much. It's a hassle. But in 1990, my first trip to England, they sent the camera from Cleveland I left from Boston. We met at Gatwick. There was no carnet in the equipment.
So you had an interesting discussion at that point, or what was the conversation?
20 hours and 7,000 British pounds in cash later.
Wow.
We had to come up with 7,000 pounds in cash. Our office did. Wow. And hire a customs broker to fill the paperwork out. It was very expensive. We never got the money back.
Wow.
And that was more money than we were getting for the one-day inspection I had to do.
Wow.
And so that was a hard lesson. And so and the person in Cleveland said, oh, geez, that's right. I forgot to put that in there. So after that.
Sounds like get a carnet and just.
I found out what a carnet was, and I got one every time I needed to go across any border, just to be sure. So it's become a religion with me.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about that. A couple other things here, and we'll end this up. Traveling domestically has its challenges.
So you're in the U.S. going from state to state, hotels,
hotel to hotel.
There's still issues,
when you're checking in, just don't brag. Oh yeah, I've got $100,000 camera with me. No, just stay as anonymous as possible.
What I always like to do is if I'm checking, I got shipping for FedEx. I'm leaving it maybe at the hotel or at FedEx office, let's say, at a shipping center. They'll ask you, what is this? What are you shipping? Or do you want to declare a value on it? And I just say generically testing equipment.
Yeah.
Never mention that it's a thermal imager or an infrared camera. No. It's just test equipment.
It's test equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cables. Sometimes I say.
Yeah. Training gear. It's something generic.
Just training, teaching materials. Is a lot of times I'll tell them.
Front desk staff at a hotel.
Front desk staff.
It's never specifically an infrared camera because I know we check it in the belt closet, but you don't want to brag.
You just don't brag. Okay.
Yeah.
Most people have good intentions, but there could be not. It couldn't be one. And common sense is number one. Don't advertise that you're traveling with the stuff. When staying in a hotel, secure the door latch and the door lock. Once my door was opened while I was in the room, and I had the camera in the room.
Wow.
And somebody had seen me going in and out of this room several times, and I won't say which city this happened in, but it didn't end well. Okay, so they fled down the hallway. So I did not have the door latch on that. That was okay. And do not ever leave any computer, camera, or any valuable in a vehicle in a hotel parking lot. 3 times since I've worked at FLIR, students have and lost them when the cars were broken into. And this is a very, very bad thing. If you're driving anywhere, keep the camera covered in the back of your car, put it in the trunk of your vehicle, boot if we have any of our European friends. I know they call things differently, but just keep it out of sight, okay? And if your camera gets lost or stolen, call up our service department or a local salesperson, contact me or Matt or whoever, give us a serial number, and we'll get it into the stolen equipment database.
Because of the ITAR regulations, is there any obligation to report that not just to the authorities or maybe to the State Department or anything else?
No,
or just
if you
go to the authorities?
If you report it to us, we'll take care of the rest. Yeah, we're not going to go recover the camera for you, but if it's an ITAR related camera, I'm sure our global trade compliance knows what to do. I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that. Okay. Also, register your camera. As soon as you purchase your camera, go to thecusthelp.com and register it so we know it's your serial number. If it ends up lost, stolen in a pawn shop, and then somebody buys it and ends up back in service, we know who that camera goes back to. Okay, so it's very, very, very important that you register the cameras. All right. So didn't want to spend an awful lot of time. We just wanted to cover the big highlights here. Traveling with a camera. Don't be afraid. Travel with a camera. Good things happen when we travel. We have a lot of fun. There are some frustrations, weather delays and things like that. Lost luggage.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. FedEx not getting stuff or UPS not getting stuff to our courses and classes when we need to, but we deal with it. Everybody's going to end up with some sort of travel troubles, but hopefully this makes a little bit of sense.
No, it's great information to have. I mean, they are questions we do get frequently. The calls come in, emails come in, we get them in training classes. Especially the international travel aspect, because I don't do any of that. You do some of that occasionally, and it's important information to have.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Let's see. Bob was asking about the carnet process. Does it apply to equipment coming out of Canada by a Canadian citizen?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So you can get a carnet to come in and out of the United States or in and out of any other country. So the carnet is an international organization. So
Okay.
just go to atacarnet.org and get all the information there.
Great.
Yep.
Jim was asking about charging a camera in a foreign country, adapters, power, supplies, all of that stuff.
Well, when you buy your camera, there's a whole little box in there. That little white box has the 110 volt adapter for the U.S. and it also has 7 or 8 other different, not 7 or 8, but maybe 4 or 5 other.
Yeah, there's all the connections they got them. Yep.
Yeah, so charging it shouldn't be a problem. Just make sure you have the right voltage. And
if you're going to the UK, should you have something to step it down? Should you have a transformer? Or?
I always carry a little transformer with me. Yep. And you can buy those for about $20-30. Brookstone was a great place to buy those.
Yep.
But I'm sure Amazon and a whole bunch of other places have them. So it's because they're very, very low wattage.
Yeah, it's protecting it. It's a big investment.
It's a big investment. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike was asking about how long does it take to apply and receive the carnet?
Last time I did that was about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can get an express carnet, of course, for express money. And again, go to the website carnet.org, atacarnet.org.
Okay.
And if you need one really quickly, it costs a lot of money, and they'll get it to you fairly quickly.
So, but plan ahead, it sounds like.
But plan ahead, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what quickly means, because I've never had to get one, on very short notice.
Okay.
But it's insurance. It's like buying an insurance policy. I had a fellow about 2 years ago come from Mexico with a GF320 wrapped up in a towel in his suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an ITAR violation and border violations and U.S. violation. I mean, a number of violations. And he just drove back and forth across the border. And nobody checked it. There should have been duties paid and export. He should have had a license to do it, even though it's legal for us to sell in Mexico.
But that's his responsibility.
That's his responsibility.
He's got to take care of that.
That's his risk.
Yeah, you got to have your paperwork in order.
Got to have your paperwork.
Yep.
If he was stopped and inspected, he'd be subject to quite amount of duties and fines and maybe even seizing of the camera.
Okay.
So it's your risk.
All right.
And better be safe than sorry.
No, great information.
Yeah.
Great information. I think we got all the questions that we came in.
Very good.
I appreciate it, folks.
Yep. Thrilled.
Thank you for your time today.
Oh, my
Ron.
time.
Yeah.
My time.
I think we'll do it again at some point.
Sure.
We'll revisit this topic and again, we'll have it available for playback here in the next week or so. You go to infraredtraining.com/webinars where you can sign up for any of these sessions. They're all free, 30 minutes to an hour, a couple dozen topics. And of course, the website for the conference, information.org. We'll be there in about a month. Call Alex for the special VIP pricing at 603-324-7785. We'll do it. We'll wrap it up for today.
Very good.
Thank you for joining us, Ron, and thank you for joining us, folks. I'm Matt Schwegler with the Infrared Training Center. We'll see you online again soon at another future live tutorial. Until then, have a great weekend.